Yes, it's unimaginable the impact that this is having all across the country, not just here in New York, not just in lower Manhattan.
There are just a million things going on at once. It's literally like a beehive.
Many stories will be told about this day.
The tragedy of September 11th, 2001.
And many will be forgotten.
What about this other thing, this day of death? It's a plot to hijack a dozen airliners in the same day. They're all American carriers, sir. They wanted to destroy them. Destroy a dozen airlines. They were trying to kill 4,000 people in one day.
Terrorism in America was really unknown.
A charmed moment in a sense.
American Airlines Flight 11. The first of the 4 planes.
There's going to be a second aircraft.
There was no integrated radio system between different agencies.
Unbelievable news coming in weeks. Big event. There will be a very, 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 very big uproar. There will be attacks in the near future.
The military learned long ago that you have to take a systems approach to communications. You must maintain connectivity.
To finally get to 9/11 and save 2,700 lives.
The story of Rick Rescorla is one of the most extraordinary and inspirational.
In a few moments' time, the second airplane flashed through everyone's television screens and crashed into the second building.
Few give much thought to the hundreds of unseen air traffic controllers who keep the skies safe.
No one could anticipate the chain of events of September 11th.
New York has to stop thinking like a city and start thinking like the military.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do. New York has to recognize that they are now on the front lines in a war, and they've got to behave like they're the front lines.
Give you the eyewitness accounts of people who saw it.
This is the car I hid behind. It saved my life.
This is the most detailed reconstruction yet.
These incidents where they occurred.
Right from the beginning.
I'm not a structural engineer. I'm just guessing now that they gave way. The loss of life here is going to be enormous.
May God help the souls that are lost today.
This is certainly not a very normal day in New York City.
Mr. bin Laden, you have declared a jihad against the United States. Can you tell us why?
Something they never thought could happen did.
سكرها ولا تنظر جواها إنه محمد أعطى نفسه عقد هزب والمحمد حط نفس إن شاء الله.
عليكم السلام. أخبار من إسبانيا يا أخي.
حان الوقت. المعسكر اتجه للجبال. يلا بسرعة.
They believe the first plane may have been an American Airlines plane, a commercial jet, either a 737 or 757, and that it was a hijacked plane. This is what they believe. They're still trying to get this verified. They did get some reports that there was an American Airlines plane that was hijacked en route from Boston to Los Angeles this morning, and they're saying that there is a strong possibility that that first plane might have been the hijacked plane.
That day began in Sarasota, Florida, with a pre-dawn 3-mile run.
By 7 a.m. that morning, 4 hijacking teams had arrived at 3 different airports: Logan in Boston, Newark in New Jersey, and Dulles in Washington.
WTOP News Time, 7:04. Welcome to your Tuesday, September 11th. I'm Mike Moss.
They're looking pretty good.
Looks like we're off to a quiet start.
It's going to be a beautiful day today. Sunshine throughout. Low humidity. Really a splendid September day. Tonight, clear and cool, low 60.
It was just a beautiful day.
What pilots call severe clear. An absolutely perfect day for flying.
The skies over Cleveland Center are just as clear. 500 air traffic controllers work to ensure aircraft safety day in and day out.
The FAA, the
air traffic controllers control nearly 50% of the world's air traffic in this airspace. And to look at the map on that particular Tuesday is really quite extraordinary.
And welcome to your Tuesday. It's the 11th of September. Looking pretty good so far. Got 60 degrees at Dulles Airport, 66 at Reagan National. Today should be sunny with temperatures in the low 80s.
Actual video of the hijackers from Dulles Airport. One hijacker set off the first metal detector and was hand-wanded by a security screener. Another hijacker set off the alarms for both the first and second metal detectors and still was allowed to proceed. They made it through security.
I'm not going to question it.
Flight attendants Amy Sweeney and Betty Ong.
The last passengers are now boarding Flight 11.
Step inside the plane.
American 11 cleared to push and start.
Be attentive on this journey.
Marwan al-Shahi, the hijack leader on board United Airlines Flight 175, taxiing just a few hundred meters away. United 175 is also bound for Los Angeles.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a final boarding call for United Airlines Flight number 93 with service to San Francisco.
The three other flights targeted by Al-Qaeda take off from Boston and Washington, D.C.
American 11 Heavy, winds 100 and 10 knots, clear for takeoff, runway 09.
Roger, Tower. American 11 cleared for takeoff. Controllers are like traffic cops at an intersection, directing all traffic that comes through. Dispatchers concentrate only on their company's vehicles, watching for any problems the plane or pilot might have.
It's for him.
FAA radars tracked
American 11
as it followed the flight plan.
At 8:01, Captain Dahl taxis Flight 93 away from its gate, right on time, but soon runs into a line of planes waiting to take off. At 8:14, American Airlines Flight 11 from Boston to Los Angeles is hijacked.
Tools. Retractable blades known as box cutters.
Shout Allahu Akbar.
United Flight 175 had taken off from Boston to Los Angeles at 8:14 a.m.
United Flight 175 left Boston, 65 souls aboard. Flight 11 was hijacked.
The flight attendants now organize themselves to get as much information out to the ground as they possibly can. They gather details from paperwork about who exactly the attackers were.
The cockpit's not answering.
Captain business class, and I think there's mates that we can't breathe. I don't know. I think we're getting hijacked. What seat are you in? Ma'am, what seat are you in?
We just left Boston.
We're up in the air. We're supposed to go to L.A., and the cockpit's not answering their phone. Okay, but what seat are you sitting in? What's the number of your seat? Okay, I'm in my drum seat right now. Okay. At 3R. Okay, you're the flight attendant? I'm sorry, did you say you're the flight attendant? Hello? Yes, hello? What is your name? You're going to have to speak up. I can't hear you. Sure. What is your name? Okay, my name is Betty Ong. I'm number 3 on Flight 11. Okay. And the cockpit is not answering their phone. And there's somebody staffed in business class, and we can't breathe in business class. Somebody's got mace or something.
Can you describe the person that you said someone is what in business class?
I think the guys are
up there. They might have gone their way up there or something. Nobody can call the cockpit. We can't even get inside.
Have they taken everyone out of first class?
Yeah, she's just saying that they have.
We contacted air traffic control. They are going to handle this as a confirmed hijacking.
By 8:15 on the morning of 9/11, close to 3,800 planes are already aloft. Among them are American Airlines Flight 11 and United 175. both 767s departing from Boston and bound for Los Angeles. At United Airlines Operations Center in Chicago, Flight 175 is just one of 3,400 flights the company is scheduled to track. The safe transport of 245,000 United passengers and crew are in the hands of company dispatchers and Captain Hank Krakowski, United's vice president in charge of safety.
At Dulles Airport, American Airlines Flight 77. It's been fueled for a cross-country trip.
By 8:20, the third hijacked flight, American Flight 77, left Dulles Airport outside Washington, bound for Los Angeles, with 66 people on board.
At 8:20, the Boeing 757 takes off for Los Angeles. At 8:20,
Flight 11 is no longer transmitting information.
The hijackers turned off the plane's transponder, making it difficult to track.
10 minutes after storming the plane, the hijackers talk to the passengers, but the wrong switch is keyed, and their announcement is broadcast to the ground.
We have some planes. Stay quiet and you'll be okay. We're turning to the airport.
An air traffic controller in Boston is also aware of the hijacking. Just before 8:25 a.m., he hears Atta's voice.
Nobody move. Everything will be okay. If you try to make any move, you'll injure yourself and the airplane. Let's stay quiet.
You still there? Yes, I am. I'm going to reconfirm with downstairs as far as the tape. I seem to think that the guy said that we have planes. Now, I don't know if it was because it was the accent or if there's more than one. But I'm going to reconfirm that for you, and I'll get back to you real quick, okay? Appreciate it.
At 8:25 a.m., Boston controllers realized that Flight 11 had been hijacked. Military assistance was requested.
But then, about 20 minutes into the flight, somewhere over upstate New York,
Flight 11
turned sharply to the south.
Until now, Flight 11 has been drifting on a northwesterly path. But the hijackers now execute a dangerously sharp 100-degree left turn.
Around 8:30, the run came in.
Engine, matter.
An odor of gas in the street.
It's just Lispinard and Church, odor of gas.
To New York City.
Nobody move, please. I'm going back to the airport. Don't try to make any stupid moves.
The transmission is picked up not just by air traffic controllers, but by United 175.
Air traffic controllers at radar scopes in Boston, New York, Washington, and Cleveland first realized what was going on, made clear in brief, chilling radio transmissions. Shouts, screams, picked up on the FAA frequency.
We checked the area with meters, and it was kind of routine.
Flight 11 has made another dangerous course change.
All the way onto our side.
Boston air traffic controllers radio United 175.
You have traffic. Look at your 12 to 1 o'clock at about 10 miles southbound to see if you can see an American 767 out there, please.
I see him. Affirmative, we have him. He's at about 28,000.
Boston controllers now break official protocol and make direct calls to the military.
Hi, Boston Center, Team U. We have a problem here. We have a hijacked aircraft headed towards New York, and we need you guys we need someone to scramble some 16s or something up there to help us out.
Is this real world or exercise?
No, this is not an exercise manifest.
They threatened to use it as a flying bomb.
Flight 11 has just passed into the airspace of New York traffic controllers. United 175 now reports the mysterious radio transmission.
New York, United 175 Heavy.
United 175, go ahead.
We heard a suspicious transmission on our departure out of Boston. Someone keyed the mic and said, "Everyone stay in your seats."
Okay, I'll pass that along.
This is the last voice transmission from United 175.
Kingston 93 line.
The controller's attention is firmly fixed on the hijacked Flight 11.
Where do you place him in relation to 583 now?
He's off about 9 o'clock at about 20 miles. Looks like he's heading southbound, but there's no transponder, no nothing, and no one's talking to him.
15 minutes after becoming airborne, Flight 175 veered off course. One passenger made 2 calls to his father. In one exchange, he said a flight attendant was stabbed.
Clear good visibility outside.
United 175 had now veered off course.
When Boston controllers re-examine a heavily accented voice from the cockpit recording of American Airlines Flight 11, uncertainty turns to horror.
At 8:42, 28 minutes after the hijack of the American Airlines plane, Flight 93 finally receives permission to take off.
Meanwhile, American airline officials are aware that one of their planes is in serious trouble. Minutes earlier, they've received an emergency call from a flight attendant on American Flight 11.
This is Amy Sweeney. 2 flight attendants have been stabbed. One of them is seriously injured.
Oh, my God. We have hijackers of Middle Eastern descent.
Yes, we're in rapid descent.
The hijackers execute yet another terrifying maneuver, a steep and barely controlled dive.
Amy, keep talking. You're breaking up. Say again.
We're flying low.
Where are you?
We're all over the place. I see a big city. I think it looks like New York.
New York? Did you see this? Oh, guys, it looks like it's going to be a gorgeous day after all.
I was having a cup of coffee. That's when we heard the jet trail across the sky.
What was that?
Wholeheartedly welcome death.
Sounds like a plane.
You don't hear jet noise that loudly in Manhattan.
For the sake of God.
It was 8:46 in the morning. That's when this stopped even resembling a normal day.
Oh my God.
There is no God but God.
We're low.
The aircraft is in the complete control of Atta and the other 4 hijackers.
End your life while praying seconds before the target.
On September 11th.
Just before 9 o'clock.
Computer simulations show the mostly aluminum planes shredding on impact.
Betty, are you there? Betty? I think we might have lost her.
Oh, my God, come on, let's move. Come on, let's find what this is.
Right then and there, I knew that this was going to be the worst day of my life.
They had an accident involving the World Trade Center.
Planes as in plural. Sounds like we're talking to New York, but there's another one aimed at the World Trade Center.
There's another aircraft.
For 30 minutes, controllers in Boston and New York had been tracking and listening to the first hijacked plane, American Flight 11.
$10,000 gallons of ignited jet fuel traveled down the tower's elevator shafts. The impact destroys floors 93 to 99 and kills hundreds of people in a split second.
Tell me what happened. Tell me what happened.
An American Airlines jet hit the tower.
All of a sudden, I could see a large cloud of smoke starting to come up.
Turn out both companies. Move. Go.
Go to the Trade Center. Now look like a direct attack.
Chief Pfeiffer made the first official report.
We have a number of floors on fire. It looked like the plane was aiming towards the building. Transmit a third alarm.
An eyewitness on the telephone right now.
I can tell you the sonic boom, and I looked up and the side of the World Trade Center exploded.
I have a very tragic alert for you right now. An incredible plane crash into the World Trade Center here at the lower tip of Manhattan.
It's believed the 737 has crashed into this speculation at this point, but at least 3 floors taken out, crashed into the side of the building.
Across the Hudson River, class has just begun for firefighter Dan Potter.
So I was studying for lieutenant that was coming up in October.
Guys, did you hear that a plane just hit the World Trade Center?
And I jumped up. I could see all the smoke around the Trade Center.
Gene's in there.
Hi, you have reached the voicemail. Steve Potter with Bank of America.
Dan Potter is relieved to get Jean's answering machine. He takes it as a good sign. He believes her office has not been hit.
This is Christine again on Windows.
She said she heard a loud explosion, and she looked and saw a bunch of debris fall past her window onto the street below. What is that about?
Where they could potentially die.
We're looking at right now fire in one of the World Trade Center towers in New York City. We don't know the cause of this fire.
We are just currently getting a look at the World Trade Center. We have something that has happened here. Flame and an awful lot of smoke from one of the towers. Whatever has occurred has just occurred within minutes, and we are trying to determine exactly what that is.
At the West Side Highway, we've had our first look at the towers.
The closer we got, the clearer it became that there was a hole.
I hung up the phone, I turned to my friend, and I said,
It looks like something out of a movie. There is a huge hole in the side of tower number 1.
Just moments ago, a jet plane, a good-sized airplane,
has crashed into one of the towers.
On the streets of lower Manhattan, people struggle to grasp what has just happened.
The jet was coming too low, and it was like a bullet.
Transmit a third alarm.
This is a live picture from our camera on the Empire State Building looking toward the World Trade Center. A 3-alarm fire and a report of an explosion somewhere in the World Trade Center.
Controllers knew a second plane, United 175, was right behind the first one and notified top officials.
There's another one that just turned south towards New York. We lost him, too.
John Carr is the president of the National Air Traffic Controllers Association.
Controller in Boston Center called me and told me American 11 was hijacked. It crashed into that building, and a second airplane has been hijacked. It just turned south, and it's headed for New York.
Within minutes of the first crash, an unprecedented response.
And they drove me in. Right under the awning of One World Trade Center.
In the lobby, the chiefs were trying to run the largest rescue operation any of them had ever seen.
All 3 stairwells are cut off above the 91st floor.
My first question to Chief Gansey was, can we get helicopters up to the roof? And he said to me, my guys can save everybody below the fire, but I can't put a helicopter above the fire.
There is no official plan for helicopter evacuations, and conditions are too dangerous to try. Police pilots circling the tower have been forbidden to land or rappel down to the building.
There was no protocol for rooftop rescues, but nobody knew, including the 911 operators people called for help.
taken from the top of the building. Okay, that's all the information.
Although most people were able to evacuate safely, many experts agreed we were lucky the towers were only half full. Many were told to wait on a lower floor until the others had exited.
We had absolutely no contact with our news desk.
Either they're going to stay in a position where they're going to be burned, or they're going to jump.
The police now suspected that Tower 1 had been targeted by terrorists.
In New York, World Trade Center Tower number 1.
Because it's probably so hot up there. Hey, let it go. Holy shit!
So I then realized that there was more trouble upstairs, so I better get going.
At 8:51, a third aircraft is hijacked. American Airlines Flight 77 from Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles. It quickly turns back towards the capital.
A third plane. In Sarasota, Florida,
at 8:51,
President Bush was told about the first plane crash as his motorcade arrived at an elementary school. He called National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice and asked to be kept informed.
On the 80th floor, when the first plane hit, from a construction site, immediately recognized that the towers were likely to topple.
One of the things that we were interested in was
saving lives.
The North American Aerospace Defense Command. Minutes after the alert, fighter jets are airborne, determined to intercept the hijacked plane.
No one in the United States will ever forget.
We have a breaking news story to tell you about. A plane has just crashed into the World Trade Center here in New York City. It happened just a few moments ago.
8:55 a.m.
As I was about to enter an elevator,
the crash of American Airlines Flight 11 is also felt by workers in the neighboring South Tower.
New York's 911 system is overwhelmed with thousands of calls.
In the meantime, an announcement came over the public address system in the South Tower, urging people to stay in place.
8:55 a.m. An announcement was made not to evacuate Tower 2.
Remain at your desks. Please remain at your desks. All personnel, remain at your desks. Please remain at your desks.
PA's telling them to stay where they are.
Can we turn it off from here?
No.
Straight down the corridor to the stairwell, just like we practiced.
From the lobby, we actually went through the mall. We're then directed to go up and out another escalator towards St. Paul's Church. After I dashed away from the building.
In Sarasota, Florida, President Bush greeted a class of second graders.
Good morning.
We're lost in the crowd, headed down to the Trade Center.
I think at that point,
radar tracking information on the third hijacked flight, American Flight 77, seems to indicate the transponder was turned off, which would have made it tougher to see on radar.
Just after 9 a.m., Flight 77 vanishes from Indianapolis Center's radar while over West Virginia.
American Airlines Flight 77, now over the West Virginia-Ohio border, makes a sudden change in course. The transponder has been turned off so that it is no longer signaling where the 757 is. The plane will now be aimed at the nation's capital.
American Flight 77 is the third hijacking of 9/11. Stunned controllers watch helplessly as American Flight 77 reverses course back to Washington, D.C.
Finally, a manager from New York Center realized there were several hijacked planes. He contacted the FAA Command Center in Herndon, Virginia.
Got several situations going on here. It's escalating big time. And we need to get the military involved with this.
on a second. I'll try to bring him up here.
14 minutes after American Flight 11 slammed into the North Tower, air traffic controllers notice a second unidentified plane.
Heads up, man. It looks like another one's coming in. Do you know who it is?
I was looking out the window.
One passenger made 2 calls to his father. In the second call, he told his dad the plane was going down.
We're going down. We're going down.
By 9:02 a.m., an NYPD helicopter was scrambled to fly over the scene and track the progress of the fire. Pilots Pat Walsh and Timothy Hayes.
You can just see it right now. You can see...
This is
I just turned to Pat and I just another plane is crashing.
What's this guy doing?
And he watched as the second plane slammed into the World Trade Center.
What's he doing? Patty, pull up and roll right.
You have to climb. He's gonna hit us.
And the plane flew by us as fast as I've ever seen and just smacked into the building.
You can see that plane coming around.
And in a few moments' time, the second airplane, crashed into the second building.
Explosion. There's another one now.
Probably wiped out the fireproofing system.
At 9:03 a.m., the impact immediately killed the 60 passengers and crew of United Flight 175 and the 5 hijackers.
The second plane hit. It just came and smacked the building, and the building shook, and the glass got hot.
There was another one. We just saw another one.
Oh, another one just hit. Something else just hit. A very large plane just flew directly over my building, and there's been another collision. Can you see it? I can see it on this shot.
Two planes. I saw the second one hit.
Firefighters from all over the city were inside those towers, hundreds of them.
Officials are calling this an act of terrorism. They're saying that's clearly what it is, clearly not an accident.
NYPD, Port Authority, police, and the military. And I need that done now. Another fucking plane.
In fact, they had actually made announcements saying that nothing was wrong with our building. The only problem was with the number 1, so that we could stay at our desk.
United Airlines Flight 175, bound for Los Angeles, crashes into World Trade Center Building 2, the South Tower, between the 77th and 85th floors. Once again, nearly 10,000 gallons of jet fuel ignite instantly. But unlike the North Tower, one staircase remains intact.
Fires break out in the stairwells.
I'm in the World Trade Center. The building was hit by something. I don't know if I'm going to get out.
I saw smoke.
The first thing that I thought was...
Both towers of the World Trade Center have been hit by aircraft. Both are in flames.
Again, we now have 2 passenger planes within 18 minutes of each other.
At United Airlines operations, dispatchers have lost all contact with United 175 out of Boston. They fear it may have been the second plane to hit the World Trade Center. 4,500 planes are now airborne.
Hello?
Did you just see this happen, Jennifer?
Matt, I've never seen any. It looks like a movie. I saw a large plane, like a jet, go immediately headed directly into the World Trade Center. It just flew into it, into the other tower, coming from south to north. I watched the plane fly into the World Trade Center.
The other tower, and there was like a ball of flame so big I couldn't believe it. It actually, you felt it in your face.
At 9:05 a.m., an aide interrupted the president to give him the news.
The second plane hit the second tower. America is under attack.
Chief of Staff Andy Card interrupted him, told him about the attack. It was clear at that point we were dealing with terrorists.
And then I backed away from the president.
At that instant, the president was alone, as only a president can be alone.
By 9:20, 2 planes over Cleveland Center are not responding to controller calls. They will be listed as the 4th and 5th hijackings of the day, unless controllers can reestablish communication.
Now, the FBI, according to the Associated Press, is investigating reports of a plane hijacking just before those crashes.
Any question about whether the FBI is taking this as a possible terrorist attack, we may have an answer in the fact that they have sealed the Lincoln and Holland tunnels now. As a precaution. Those tunnels are sealed at both ends, so they are not allowing traffic to pass through the Lincoln and Holland tunnels. PATH train service is suspended.
Right now, all of Lower Manhattan is shut down.
Everybody here is scanning the skies looking for a possible attack. Every silent rescue crew has been told if you really back.
The elevator is a last resort. It could be dangerous, but it may be their only hope of getting out of the building.
At 9:22, Dulles radar picks up an unidentified aircraft traveling east, very fast.
At the same time, 2 other planes believed hijacked, Delta 1989 and United 93, continue to threaten the skies above Cleveland Center.
The president
convened a meeting of his national security advisors, including the vice president, the heads of the CIA, the National Security Agency, and the FBI, and also New York Governor Pataki. He was briefed by his national security advisor, who phoned him after the first attack.
The 3rd hijacked plane had been flying undetected for approximately 28 minutes. The FAA wasn't focused on that flight. It was still looking for Flight 11, which had crashed into Tower 1 of the World Trade Center 45 minutes earlier.
Military Boston Center just had a report that American 11 is still in the air and it's on its way towards Washington.
Okay, American 11 is still in the air? On its way towards Washington?
There was definitely another aircraft that hit the tower. That's the latest report we have.
Okay.
I'm going to try to confirm an ID for you, but I would assume he's somewhere over either New Jersey or somewhere further south.
Okay, so American 11 isn't the hijack at all then, right?
No, he is a hijack.
American 11 is a hijack?
Yes.
And he's going into Washington?
This could be a 3rd aircraft.
The NEADS technician took this call from the FAA, immediately passed the word to the mission crew commander. He, in turn, reported to the NEADS battle commander.
Okay, American Airlines is still airborne. 11, the first guy, he's heading towards Washington. Okay, I think we need to scramble Langley right now, and I'm going to take the fighters from Otis and try to chase this guy down if I can find him.
The mission crew commander at NEADS issued an order at 9:23. Quote, okay, scramble Langley.
At 9:24, a United Airlines dispatcher warns 16 transcontinental flights to be on alert, and one of them is Flight 93.
At 9:25 a.m., the 3rd hijacked plane was picked up on radar at the Dulles Airport Tower just outside Washington by controller Danielle O'Brien.
I slid over to the controller on my left, and I asked him, do you see an unidentified plane there southwest of Dulles? His response was, yes.
Controllers watched American 77 headed straight for P-56, Prohibited Airspace 56, which covers the White House and the Capitol.
Look how fast he is.
At a speed of about 500 miles an hour, with no radio contact whatsoever.
Our supervisor picked up our line to the White House and started relaying to them the information. We have an unidentified, very fast-moving aircraft inbound toward your vicinity, 8 miles west.
Some of our dispatchers began to send out an alert immediately, warning the flight crew that there may be terrorist acts happening. Don't open the cockpit door.
Dispatchers and controllers must somehow put their shock aside and improvise a plan to secure all flights. Company dispatchers contact hundreds in their remaining fleet.
My attention was strictly on what's the security status of all the aircraft. So we instituted a procedure. Every 10 to 15 minutes, the dispatchers were talking to the crews to ascertain the cockpit was still secure.
At Newark Airport, the pilot of United Flight 23 keeps his transcontinental flight for L.A. on the ground. When the plane returns to the gate, it's reported that several unruly Middle Eastern men rush from the plane, leaving their luggage behind. Inside the bags, officials find Al-Qaeda instruction sheets, but false IDs prevent investigators from ever locating the bag's true owners.
9:26 a.m. Flight 93's pilot gets the message and asks for clarification.
Moments before the hijacking begins, passengers report that 3 men put on red bandanas.
At 9:28, the hijackers attack.
Delta 1989, that traffic cruise at 11 o'clock and 15 miles southbound. 41 climbing, looks like he's turning eastbound heading 360.
United 93 and Delta 1989 cross paths. As United 93's radar signal momentarily blinks off, controllers hear someone scream on an errant frequency. But because the caller did not repeat or include a flight ID number, controllers cannot confirm from which plane the call is made.
He has never flown a commercial airliner before. His only flying qualifications are for small private planes.
Somebody call Cleveland. United 1523, did you hear some interference on the frequency here a couple minutes ago, screaming? Yes, I did, 797, and we couldn't tell what it was either.
This is a difficult moment for America. Unfortunately, we'll be going back to Washington after my remarks. Today, we've had a national tragedy. 2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country. I have spoken to the Vice President, to the Governor of New York, to the Director of the FBI, and have ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families and to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act. Terrorism against our nation will not stand. And now, if you join me in a moment of silence. May God bless the victims, their families, and America. Thank you very much.
In Florida, the president and his entourage were making their own dash to safety, from Booker Elementary School to vehicles ready to take them to Air Force One.
That, of course, was President Bush, who is in Florida in Longboat Key. He was speaking at an elementary school. He had planned to be talking about literacy. Obviously, he had to change.
Flight 77 closed in on Washington, D.C.
Reagan and Dulles airports notified the Secret Service.
The Vice President was rushed to a special basement bunker.
The Secret Service rushed the Vice President to the President's Emergency Operations Center beneath the building.
At 9:32, 4 minutes into the hijacking, Cleveland Air Traffic Control hears there are sounds of a renewed struggle coming from the cockpit, along with a woman begging for her life. Ziad Jarrah makes an announcement, which he also broadcasts in air to air traffic control in Cleveland.
Controllers in Cleveland heard for the second time a strange transmission.
They got them pieces down. Keep remaining steady. We have them all aboard. Calling Cleveland Center, you're unreadable. Say again slowly. Was that United 93? Yeah, that transmission he said was unreasonable. It sounded like someone said they have a bomb on board. That's what we thought. We just we didn't get it clear. Is that United 93 calling?
Flight 93 flew on without radio contact.
It was 9:34 a.m.
And the plane turned back. And we're telling the supervisor he's turning back in. He's turning back eastbound. We lost radar contact with that aircraft.
We received a report from the FAA that they had lost radar contact with one of the aircraft that were over Washington, D.C.
By chance, a C-130 is already in the skies above Washington. The plane everyone is looking for is right in front of him.
When I first noticed this commercial airliner in our 12 o'clock position into about a 45-degree bank.
Flight 77 is circling over Washington.
Moments later, all of the alarms start going off, and that was when Flight 77 smashed into the Pentagon.
The plane takes aim. "9:37 a.m. Flight 77 crashes into the Pentagon.
And then the Washington National controllers came over our speakers and said, Dulles, hold all of our inbound traffic. The Pentagon's been hit.
We got a plane down. We got a plane down. It looks like it's the Crystal City area by 14th Street. Plane down. Can you confirm? We're not positive, but we are responding from within the area of the 14th Street Bridge.
Engine 101, did it crash over in the area of the Pentagon? Is that correct?
I'm going inside the building now. They don't come out for what? I'm going in there now.
At the operations center that monitors the building's condition, everything seems to explode at once.
I remember just within seconds of seeing the number 355 up there for alarms.
Now we have unconfirmed reports there has been an explosion. There is a fire at the Pentagon here in Washington.
A huge fire has engulfed the Pentagon. And even more terrifying, a big chunk of the building has been destroyed.
Another large airliner.
We have obviously a state of siege here in the nation's capital as this apparently coordinated attack takes place.
This country will go on.
We've started the process of stopping any further takeoffs nationwide. Now we're starting to get busy telling other flights to get on the ground.
A fourth plane, United Airlines Flight 93, bound for San Francisco out of Newark, takes a sudden 180-degree turn near Cleveland.
Flight 93
is over Ohio when it makes a dramatic U-turn and starts heading east.
At 9:41, 13 minutes into the hijacking, Giral turns off the plane's transponder, making it harder for the authorities to track its progress.
United 93, do you still hear Cleveland?
While Mineta was giving the order to land the planes, the White House staff was upstairs in a West Wing cafeteria, and the order came to evacuate.
Someone from Secret Service yelled, "Women, drop your heels and run."
Yeah, everybody's trying to get back. We're running. They're screaming at us to get back.
Suddenly the gates that never opened except for authorized vehicles just opened and the whole White House just flooded out.
Security meeting to see what steps are taken.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we're looking at live pictures of the Pentagon where there is billowing smoke. Jim Miklashevsky just reported that he heard an explosion.
And we're told that the White House itself, the West Wing, at the very least, is being evacuated.
White House staff members were told to run away from the building.
You guys, please. Everybody cross the street. Use the light, please.
United 93, do you still hear Cleveland?
The one thing that we absolutely knew that we needed to do is get every airplane on the ground as fast as we can. If we can do that, the threat of a hijacker goes away. There was a corporate decision made by our chief operating officer to ground all airplanes.
The actual radar picture of that moment, showing 4,873 dots, each one an airplane. It took less than 2 hours for every private and commercial plane to land somewhere and clear the skies over America.
Every time we think it can't get any worse, we are now learning that the FAA is shutting down all takeoffs anywhere in the country.
With the Pentagon in flames and nearly 4,000 planes still in the air, the FAA declares countrywide ATC 0, all planes grounded.
For the first time in American history.
Right now, all flights are canceled at least until noon tomorrow, or when the FAA says planes can take off again.
In one of the country's busiest corridors, the order is unprecedented. It affects thousands of airliners inside or heading to New York, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and across the entire North Atlantic.
What started out as a normal day for travelers at Logan Airport soon turned into something that no one will soon forget.
I feel terrible. This isn't happening, you know? I feel like it's a movie.
Word quickly spread about the devastation. Passengers watched and listened and were stunned that it had happened.
We're not releasing any luggage until it's all been inspected. So
Massport then secured the area and quickly removed everyone from all terminals.
Please, the airport's being evacuated. They need to go home.
Hours later, Logan Airport is a virtual ghost town.
United 93, United 903, do you hear Cleveland?
Associated Press now reporting an aircraft has crashed into the Pentagon. This is the third apparently deliberate air crash. The White House is being evacuated now.
9:45 a.m. and the fires in both buildings were burning out of control.
At 9:46, and again 2 minutes later, Command Center updated FAA headquarters that United 93 was now, quote, 29 minutes out of Washington, D.C., end quote. No one at the FAA requested military assistance for Flight 93.
They know that the trade tower and the Pentagon have been struck, and they don't tell the military command that there's a fourth plane hijacked and in the air, and at this point turned around and headed toward Washington. I mean, it's just incomprehensible.
Worldwide, American military forces are put at the highest state of alert. Stretcon Delta.
At 9:49, senior managers of the Federal Aviation Authority discuss whether to alert the military about Flight 93.
Do we want to think about scrambling aircraft? Oh, God, I don't know. That's a decision somebody's going to have to make probably in the next 10 minutes. Everybody just left the room.
It is the dispatcher who does the flight monitoring.
Vice President Cheney is trying to contact President Bush, who has just left a school in Florida. Aides are discussing whether to give the Air Force orders to shoot down any planes that approach the Capitol.
Down in the White House bunker,
that morning we thought there were 6 aircraft that had been hijacked.
The Vice President was recommending that any more hijacked planes be shot down.
That was your advice to the President? It was my advice. It was his decision.
That's a sobering moment, to order your own combat aircraft to shoot down your own civilian aircraft. But it was an easy decision to make, given the fact that commercial aircraft were being used as a weapon. Say easy decision, it was... I didn't hesitate. Let me put it to you that way.
At 9:49, there already are 2 F-16 fighter jets over Washington, D.C., scrambled after the earlier attacks. But their pilots and controllers do not yet know that Flight 93 has been hijacked.
At that point, the plane started to fly
over Pennsylvania. And they are still descending.
There was a third radio transmission from Flight 93.
United 93, United 903.
Hi, the captain. I would like to order the remain CDM. We're home aboard and going back to the airport and hand over demand. Remain quiet.
United 93, understand you have a bomb on board. Go ahead.
Then silence from United 93.
From their families, the passengers learn about the other hijacked planes that have crashed into the World Trade Center.
Our pagers weren't working at that point. Our cell phones were not working.
And of course, it's important to point out that that does happen, but the feds say many times these sorts of training schools have taken a part in this and unknowingly have trained these terrorists.
Military aircraft, fighter aircraft armed with guns and missiles have direct orders to shoot down any plane that seems bent on crashing into something else.
We might as well have been in a NASCAR event because that was the fastest we'd ever gone in a motorcade.
The presidential motorcade was rushing to a Sarasota airport.
The Vice President was in contact with the President.
The President told the Vice President, sounds like we have a minor war going on here. I heard about the Pentagon. We're at war. Somebody's going to pay.
As Mr. Bush boarded Air Force One, he was overheard telling a Secret Service agent, be sure to get the First Lady and my daughters protected.
Precautions being taken everywhere. The U.S. Capitol is now being evacuated as a precautionary measure.
On Capitol Hill.
House will be in order.
More than 400 members of Congress were preparing to meet in the Capitol. Congressional leaders were already huddled in meetings. Suddenly, their aides broke in. House Speaker Dennis Hastert rushed to his office. The vice president was trying to reach him on his secure phone. The phone wouldn't work.
You had to turn a key and put a code in, and we couldn't make the combination with the vice president.
As he waited to hear from Dick Cheney, Hastert looked out the window toward the Pentagon.
There was a huge curl of blue-black smoke that was coming across the Capitol Mall.
We think a plane is on its way to the Capitol. Then it was mass rush exodus.
People were just
as fearful as I've seen.
The chairman of the Intelligence Committee was quickly escorted from a top-secret briefing where he had just been told about new threats from the terrorist group, Al-Qaeda.
We need to go north, now! Go!
Workers, tourists, senators scattered as word spread that a plane was 20 minutes away.
Our plane was heading for the Capitol.
God bless America. Amen.
Capitol Police ordered the leaders to hurry to the west front of the Capitol, where military helicopters would take them to a secret location. Inside, they paced. Finally, the vice president called. They realized Vice President Cheney was in command of the government. Congress would be forced to take orders. Mr. Cheney told them they must stay in the bunker in case there was an attack on the Capitol.
Commercial aviation service across the country and all aircraft takeoffs have been suspended by the Federal Aviation Administration. That an unprecedented step taken by the FAA just a moment ago in the wake of this apparent deliberate and concerted effort to crash these airplanes into these buildings in New York and Washington.
The rest of Congress was milling around on sidewalks near the Capitol where confusion reigned.
This is no time to leave the Capitol vacant as a symbol that we don't have the courage to go back into session.
We are not safe.
Investigators discovered an unanticipated weakness in the building's fireproofing. The tower floors were supported by relatively lightweight steel trusses spanning each level. These trusses were protected with a spray-on fireproofing. But in the extraordinary circumstances of September 11th, that form of fireproofing wasn't good enough.
At 9:57.
It was 9:58 a.m.
By the time Air Force One took off, hijackers had been flying United Flight 93 for nearly 30 minutes.
Air Force One thundered down the runway, blasting smoke and dust in a full-thrust takeoff. Communications Director Dan Bartlett was on board.
It was like a rocket for a good 10 minutes.
The president left Sarasota, Florida. Air Force One took off.
After having been forced to take flight by the Secret Service. Circling the skies,
Mr. Bush would embark on an unprecedented presidential odyssey, logging more than 2,300 miles aboard Air Force One.
It was a lot safer to be airborne at that point. We had the president on board, so we assumed that the president may be a part of this plot.
They were on course for Washington, but by now no one thought that was a good idea, except the president.
I thought it was very important for me to be in the center of our government, in charge of the situation. I knew I could be in charge of the situation on Air Force One via the telephone, but I wanted to be there in the Capitol. But I was, it was impossible for me to go back. We didn't know what was going on.
Effectively, the country was decapitated.
That's a very haunting description that Bob Kerr just gave near the White House.
Let's go back. We just saw a live picture of what seemed to be a portion of the building falling away from the World Trade Center. If we can re-rack that to about 20 seconds ago, you'll see something dramatic happening. A portion of the building falling away. Here we go to the tape.
We have the tape.
I think what you're going to see is
It's just coming down. It is just coming down.
Watch the right
It's exploding.
I just want to check one thing because, John, we now have a... What do we have?
We watch
ripping apart.
It is billowing.
the World Trade Center.
Pat, the debris is flying. I'm going to run.
Okay.
Fall. It looks like a new plume, a new large plume of smoke.
We hope that Kristen was not in a position where she would have been injured by that, but the tower is literally crumbling into the streets of Manhattan.
Peter, it's Don Daly down here. I'm 4 blocks north of the World Trade Center. The second building that was hit by the plane has just completely collapsed.
Subject to intense heat, the floor trusses pulled away from their connections and brought down the buildings. Each floor pancaking onto the one below.
And down it came.
Remove the support from a column, you end up reducing its strength.
We couldn't see.
Parts of the steel columns failed first.
She barely managed to escape.
To send someone into that space.
As the building was collapsing.
No.
Watched in amazement as the South Tower came down.
Everyone's running in the other direction.
Once the weakened columns gave way,
Everyone get back! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
the towers were fatally compromised.
My cousin calls and
The whole building's gone.
he said,
Terrible tragedy.
Then I got to the stairs and
you got out.
When I could on the cell phone or on the Nextel.
Which is amazing and impressive. And
Think about safety now. Maybe you shouldn't get as close as you can. Because when that first tower fell, I thought I had killed a whole bunch of my colleagues.
And I hung up the phones.
Frightened of what may happen. If you could comfort them and help them.
And that's when I remember looking out and I'm seeing people running.
You can see the plume of smoke is coming in our direction. Let's get out of here.
It's going to be horrendous.
I kind of think it's a different situation.
And assist them, particularly elderly. That might be a way in which you can contribute. The best way in New York we can deal with this right now, show that we're not going to be in any way affected by this, that we're not going to be cowed by it, that we're not afraid, that we're going to go about our business and lead normal lives.
The World Trade Center collapses. Hundreds of office workers lose their lives.
Oh my God! Oh my God, Rick! Oh my God! There's been a huge explosion. Everyone's running in the other direction. It's unclear what happened, if the tower collapsed or what, but I think we better get out of this mess. Hey, let's go!
There was this 300-foot tall cloud of dust and debris and stuff just rolling up.
People within the entire perimeter began to run for our lives.
We knew we had to get out of there. People would just stop and fall on the floor, crying. And like we'd have to help them up just to get them to keep going so we can get out of there.
Get out of here.
I'm not a structural engineer, but I'm just guessing now that they gave way.
Hello?
Yeah, David Lee, what can you tell us?
John, the scene is horrific. One of the two towers literally collapsed.
Deep underneath this twisted rubble.
The foot of the World Trade Center suddenly, while talking to an officer, was questioning me about my press credentials. We heard a very loud...
The loss of life here is going to be enormous.
People could still be alive, could still be breathing. Some of those people had made phone calls to their families, authorities from the cell phones. 9 have survived at least. 4 New York City firefighters, 3 cops.
Blast, an explosion. We looked up, and the building...
Like they're trying to do, which is to instill fear in us. Governor?
A wave of motion coming towards us from south.
I wasn't going to leave. I wanted to report on what was happening.
We went back out into the corner of the street.
Where they are located today.
And walking out of this cloud.
And the taste gets in your mouth, and it's horrible. So we just covered our mouths with our shirt.
How close were you to the building when this happened?
I was in front of the door of 5 World Trade Center, evacuating the people out of the building. We got a lot out, and then it just blew. Couldn't see, couldn't breathe. It's terrible. I've never seen nothing like it.
How many people would you say were on the ground when the building collapsed?
Law enforcement over on that corner there, I don't know, there might have been 100, 150, I don't know. I stood in the building for a couple of seconds, and then all of a sudden the building started falling out.
We saw people side by side, hugging each other, walking. There was a time where everybody knew they needed each other, and you weren't a Wall Street businessman or a student or...
You have ambulance straight down.
Of course, there's no word on casualties.
You have ambulance straight down.
But suffice to say, the loss of life, presumably profound.
Ambulance straight down. Ambulance straight down. Go around. At this point.
At a time like this, how does America respond prudently and yet with whatever force needs to be applied?
Watch out! Watch out! Back up, everybody!
Excuse me, it's closed. Gotta move back.
The voices, the shrieks from the crowd.
All right.
The police officers, FBI.
those who made it out.
Only a couple.
Chief Pfeiffer. And he's on the radio.
Firefighters are not all that's needed.
There were prayers for the innocent victims who died in the attacks and their families.
It's gone! The whole tower! Holy crap! They knocked the whole freaking thing down!
Most experts agree we can make our buildings safer.
We heard that rumble that nobody's ever heard before. 110-story building coming down.
The South Tower had vanished, taking with it thousands of people and most of the fire department's command structure. Suddenly, saving the remaining tower seemed too great a risk.
And then the lights went out. I said, "Is that what I thought it was?" And he just looked at me.
South Tower's collapsed.
Collapsed. Knowing that a high-rise building has never collapsed before. And now the sister building that we were in had just collapsed. We're going to be lucky to get out of here.
Guys, we're heading out right now. You got it, Captain.
The sheer terror that we're in this building. We're dead men walking.
Keep it coming!
I can't see anything!
The fire department's a semi-military organization, and you don't do things without orders. So I was basically self-evacuating.
And we look, and the tower's here, so it's okay. Probably to something else. The tower is nice. It's standing. The other one, we can't see it, but it's probably just, on the other side, and no one tells us.
Speculate on the full extent of the horrifying damage.
Within moments of the South Tower collapse, police and fire department radios are screaming for all personnel to evacuate the North Tower. But many firemen never hear the order. They're tuned to a different channel.
So we walk north, just trying to figure out what took place here.
Pictures of the day, just all these people running.
You were right there at the building?
Yes, how people try.
We're doing a search. There's hundreds of people under that debris. We were in the South Tower, and we were in the lobby. We were getting ready to go up to the upper floors, and there was an explosion. We started running for cover. We neither one of us made it to the door, right? But after the dust lifted, there was sunlight, so we walked off light. Listen, we lost a lot of friends today, okay?
So many people became heroes that day.
This poor woman.
Bloody and crying.
As a nation, we're going to have to take action against them.
Those units going to be Tower 2 has had a major explosion and what appears to be a complete collapse.
President Bush calls this an apparent terrorist attack. The president is in the air. He's returning to...
Those steel girders, strong as they are, had a lot of weight to support, and apparently...
On Air Force One, Associated Press reporter Sonia Ross was watching from the press cabin.
I heard the reporter say, "Now the tower's collapsing." I just looked up out of shock and saw the tower collapse.
I started crying.
Horrible scene.
And I actually went to church and prayed in the church today.
They also feared that Air Force One itself was a target.
Vice President Cheney told the president there was a credible threat against the plane. Using the code name for Air Force One, Mr. Bush told an aide, "Angel is next." The threat was passed to presidential pilot Colonel Mark Tillman.
No longer is it a time to get the president home. We actually have to consider everything we say, everything we do could be intercepted, and we have to make sure that no one knows what our position is.
Tillman asked for an armed guard at his cockpit door while Secret Service agents double-checked the identity of everyone on board. And then came warning from air traffic control. A suspect airliner was dead ahead. Colonel Tillman had a problem.
Coming out of Sarasota, there was one call that said there was an airliner off our nose that they did not have contact with.
Tillman took evasive action, pulling his plane high above normal traffic. He still needed to hide the most visible plane in the world. Tillman didn't want to use his radio, fearing that the hijackers were listening to regular air traffic channels. So he called air traffic control on the telephone.
We actually didn't tell them our destination or what directions we were heading. We basically just talked to them and said, okay, fine. We have no clearance at this time. We are just going to fly across the United States.
Controllers passed Air Force One from one sector to another, warning each other to keep the route secret.
Okay, where's he going? Just watch him. Don't question about where he's going. Just work him and watch him. And there's no flight plan in right now. We're not going to put anything in. Okay, sir? Copy that. Thank you. Yeah.
President George W. Bush, on board Air Force One, watched the horrifying pictures. But the TV signal was breaking up. His calls to the vice president were cutting out. Mr. Bush says he pounded his desk, shouting, "This is inexcusable. Get me the vice president."
I was trying to clear the fog of war and realizing it was a defining moment in the history of the United States. I didn't need any legal briefs. I didn't need any consultations. I knew we were at war. Information was just flying in all directions. My first job was to gather as much information as I could and speak to the American people. I have an obligation to our country to make sure our government functions.
There is confusion within and between government agencies.
It was roughly an hour after the initial impact, and now we see the building has apparently crumbled.
Nobody was in control.
10:02 a.m. Officials in Cheney's shelter begin receiving reports from the Secret Service of another inbound aircraft, presumably hijacked, heading toward Washington.
The 757 began homing in on the Washington area, its target unknown. But this flight did not make it that far.
Hi, the captain. I would like to order the ghastly. Well, home aboard, and I'm going back to the airport, and to hand over the man, so please remain quiet. This is Edward Phelps. I'm in United Flight 90. Please, an hijack. Please help us. We need help.
Dan Stevens of the Westmoreland County Department of Public Safety says one of his 911 operators got a call from a man who had locked himself in the bathroom of the hijacked plane.
We've been asked by the FBI to refrain from any additional information, what has been given to the press at this point. They must have heard something that they want to listen to closely. The FBI has listened to the tape, and we're abiding by their decision.
Stevens says the caller was clear and precise, answering every question the operator asked. The call lasted 1 minute. Then the line went dead.
There are 52 airphones in coach class, but unknown to those trying to use them, only 8 can work at any one time. Cell phones also work intermittently.
Hello.
United's office in San Francisco.
This is flight 93 out of Newark. We've been hijacked. The hijackers have killed one of the attendants.
Tom, 2 planes have hit the towers above the World Trade Center. The mobile phone voicemail. Ring him, leave a message.
Mark, this is your mom. It's 10:54 a.m. The news is that it's been hijacked by terrorists. Try to overpower these guys if you can. Go ahead and do everything you can to overpower them because they're hell-bent.
Don't worry. We're putting a plan together. We're going to do something.
The passengers and crew gather weapons.
They're getting ready to break into the cockpit. I have to go.
I just want to talk to somebody and let someone know this is happening.
airplane's running up to first class. I gotta go.
No, there was a car bomb at the main State Department building.
The FBI had been operating a massive exercise from their hostage rescue unit. All of their top teams were in Monterey, California for the last 2 days, scheduled to fly back today commercially. All of those people are out of place. They can't reach their officials in New York. All of their phone lines are down, trying to get a military flight back because there are no longer commercial flights. And there is a real breakdown of the FBI anti-terror coordination team.
By 10:05 a.m., dispatchers and controllers have landed close to 2,000 flights. Almost 3,000 remain airborne.
We want to tell you that American Airlines has confirmed that one of its flights, American Airlines Flight number 11 from Boston's Logan Airport, scheduled to go to LAX. It left at 8 a.m. this morning. 45 minutes later, it was diverted into the World Trade Center. It was the airline that was involved. We don't know about the second plane yet, nor do we know the origins of a third plane that deliberately flew itself into the Pentagon this morning.
They are 40 yards from the cockpit.
About an hour after the first impact, we saw some dramatic footage of a portion of one of the Twin Towers actually fall away from the rest of the building. Can we go to the tape now? Here we go, right here. This is, I mean, when you look at it, the building has collapsed. That tower just came down.
Passengers aboard the fourth hijacked plane make history for their heroism.
The passengers fought for control and sacrificed themselves in a Pennsylvania meadow.
United 93, Cleveland, do you still hear the sound?
The flight was just 15 minutes from Washington.
911, your emergency.
Oh my God, there was just an airplane crash here by Shanksville Stony Creek School.
Where's it at by the school?
You come back Lambertville Road? I'm not even sure. All I see is
near the school?
It's coming out of the woods. That's all I see.
What's your name?
Pluta.
Okay, we'll send somebody out.
Thank you.
Hurry,
hurry.
In Cleveland, another controller makes a final ominous request to a nearby pilot.
Do you see any activity on your right side, smoke or anything like that?
Negative, we're searching. Yeah, we do have a smoke puff now at about, probably 2 o'clock. It appears to be just a dark cloud, like a puff of black smoke.
It was all over. United Flight 93 crashed in a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania.
Okay, there's now on United 93, there's a report of black smoke in the last position I gave you, 15 miles south of Johnstown.
From the airplane or from the ground?
They're speculating it's from the aircraft. Who hit the ground. That's what they're speculating. It's speculation only.
It was 10:07 a.m.
The flight was on its way from Newark to San Francisco when somewhere near Cleveland it banked sharply to the right. Exactly what happened between that moment and this is what investigators are now hoping to answer.
The search will be painstaking, inasmuch that evidence is evidence, no matter how small.
At 10:08 a.m., an NYPD helicopter pilot reported that Tower 1 wouldn't last much longer.
Well, the consequences go on, not just to the World Trade Center and to the poor people who were trapped and caught there, but of course that is the heart of the world financial markets, which have now been shut down effectively as well. So the ripple effect continues this morning as we all try to adjust psychologically and intellectually to what we are witnessing here. It is difficult to comprehend, but this country, the strongest country in the world, has been the target of a major coordinated terrorist attack, and the end is not over yet. All air traffic has been shut down. There will be no financial markets in place today. Business has been stopped across the country.
I also want to give you a heads up, Washington.
Go ahead.
United 93, have you got information on that yet?
Yeah, he's down.
He's down?
Yes.
When did he land? Because we have confirmation.
He did not land.
Oh, he's down?
Yeah, somewhere up northeast of Camp David.
Northeast of Camp David.
That's the last report. They don't know exactly where.
We actually saw a huge portion of that second tower go down, at which point tens of thousands of people started running north along the West Side Highway, and there's definitely an evacuation in progress now with everyone headed north.
It is not until 10:14 that Cheney's orders are relayed to the proper military leaders. According to the commission, it's not clear when the shoot-down order is communicated. NORAD military commanders never pass the orders along to pilots.
Apparently the pilots did not understand that they had the authority to shoot down a commercial aircraft.
Because of poor communications and confusing orders, the military jets were in no position to defend the Capitol.
It looks like a movie, frankly, that this is unfolding.
By now, I would guess that everyone is up across all the time zones in America. It's 7:15 in the West, obviously, but for those of you who are just joining us at 8:45 Eastern Time, 8:42 Eastern Time today, an American Airlines Flight 11 from Boston to LAX was crashed into one of the World Trade Center buildings. 15 minutes later, another plane hit the other one. That building has now collapsed. Within an hour of those two attacks, the Pentagon was hit by a plane, an untold number of casualties there. President Bush has been on the air. He was in Florida at the time saying apparently this was a terrorist attack. Everyone now believes that, carefully coordinated from the air, and the consequences of it in terms of human loss and the effect on this country are still to be determined. We're told now that spokesman for Yasser Arafat has condemned what has happened here in New York. He says that the PLO has no role in it whatsoever. They're completely shocked and appalled by what is happening.
All federal buildings in Washington have now been evacuated.
We've gotten a report that now a car bomb has exploded outside the State Department.
There is no subway service in New York City. All subway service throughout the 5 boroughs has been suspended.
Firefighters inside the North Tower have been ordered to evacuate.
I don't think it's possible that anyone survived being in there. I know it is because we all did.
Every fiber in your body is screaming.
What happened? The noise started again.
You could feel the rumble.
The incredible rush of air at my back, wind tunnel.
And you heard the rumble. And I said, oh, here we go. This is it for me.
The floor actually moving. It felt like I was in a fun house almost, the way the thing started heaving a little bit.
Yes, let me interrupt for a second. Can you tell us any more about reports we're getting that a car bomb has exploded outside the State Department?
They did evacuate the State Department, but we do not have confirmation at this moment.
The skies are crystal clear blue, and I can't see the speck of an airplane, but security forces here are obviously alarmed enough to tell people to keep some distance from the building, but to take immediate cover.
Can you tell me a little bit more? Well, actually, let's look at these live pictures at the World Trade Center. The other tower of the World Trade Center has just collapsed. You are looking at live pictures of the second twin tower at the World Trade Center collapsing and
The profile of Manhattan has been changed. There's been a declaration of war by terrorists on the United States.
You can only imagine the confusion and the terror. Both Trade Center towers have now collapsed.
The mayor's press secretary calls out to the media trailing him.
I see Giuliani and his security not knowing that he just came out of a building that collapsed. I had no idea. But I see other camera crews trying to get close. So I said, well, I'll sneak in right behind them. Don't ask me how, but I get right in front of Giuliani. I guess Giuliani noticed the mic flag, and he asked, are you live? Yeah, I'm live. Sure.
The mayor pleads with citizens to cooperate.
Everyone in the city should remain calm. The very best thing to do right now would be to remain home. If you're outside of southern Manhattan, you should remain where you are. You shouldn't panic. You shouldn't worry. We're doing the best that we can to evacuate southern Manhattan below Canal Street. If you are in southern Manhattan below Canal Street, you should walk north and get out of southern Manhattan. And the police and the fire need all of the room and all of the space possible to try to evacuate the people at the World Trade Center.
Giuliani is covered in white dust. He's with Tom Von Essen, the fire commissioner, Bernie Kerik, the police commissioner, Tony Coles, a bunch of his aides, and just about maybe 2 reporters, 1 cameraman. So we're walking up Church Street as he's trying to kind of collect himself, figure out where they should go next. And suddenly I hear a rumble behind me, and I look back, and Tower 1 is coming down. I look at Giuliani, who sees it, and this plainclothes cop, this detective, throws his arm around Giuliani and just grabs him and bolts.
World Trade Center Tower number 1 was weakening. It had stood for an hour and 43 minutes. But at 10:29 a.m., it buckled.
Oh my God, there it goes! And right there, in front of the lens.
Could be taking massive hits.
He's not out of danger yet.
Before all this is done.
Heat and smoke that buckled the steel beams.
Falling away.
Another day in America's history.
Of Lower Manhattan. Oh my God! Oh my God!
Found 3 police officers, 6 firefighters thus far in New York.
There it goes, there it goes, there it goes.
I want the units to come in and be attacked.
And I was in shock.
The 110-story high building.
And a picture's been created.
And I actually went to Turk. And
I didn't know what was going on. It's in front of my eyes, the building.
In a mirror image.
Of course, because of the property damage.
And all the debris just hit me.
Really obvious.
The second tower now collapses.
You put it down now. I think we need to put it down now. Here we go.
Of the collapse of its twin.
That there was this rumble resulting from what we see there.
You also have to deal with their families.
You just saw a whole...
You've got families now who are wondering.
Blowout.
Untold.
The 31-year-old towers.
Then I started getting hit with things. It was very loud.
Every time we see it.
How did you guys get out?
The picture that went round the world.
Just found our way out.
That's where I had a bit.
Through the grace of God.
Stewardesses being attacked.
And the tower coming down. And
I said, well, this is it.
People are very much at risk, as they always are in these kinds of disasters.
Well, then let me ask you this.
If their fathers, their husbands are...
all over Lower Manhattan, and so you can understand.
Come out of the tragedy of September 11th.
And then the building just toppled.
Walk towards the light.
Walk towards the light.
We walk towards.
we made it through the center. I don't know how.
the untold cost to
Holy shit!
Smoke and the dust that just covered.
I think the rescue people that are in there
are going to be found.
Passengers were terrorized on some of the flights for a long while before the planes crashed.
Scores of industries.
As well as how you deal with them if that person is not found.
I remember thinking, I just hope this is going to be fast.
that the structure is always
when you have a pile of rubble like this, the structure is always somewhat unstable.
Of our city here and in Washington.
Roughly 50,000 people work in the towers in the center area on a daily basis.
Sal D'Agostino lurched toward a doorway, thinking its metal frame might protect him from what was to come.
106 floors of concrete and steel come crashing down, floor by floor, one on top of another.
And it really scared me. Goodbye, honey.
It was like an onrushing locomotive or an avalanche.
It was sort of a process of a few seconds to realize the magnitude of that, the whole area. And
smoke just coming down the block, papers, people running. I pick up the camera.
I hope I live.
On the morning of...
I hope I live. I hope I live. It's coming down on me. Here it comes. I'm getting behind a car.
On 9/11, an hour and 45 minutes after the first hijacked plane hit, the North Tower disintegrates.
The President and the First Lady.
We watched the buildings fall. It was just an unbelievable sight.
I was horrified. I thought, dear God, please protect as many citizens as you can.
You know, I have a question. Do you have an idea as to why one man out of 1,000 makes a life choice to run into burning buildings?
Can I just get a toot off your respirator? I'm just getting a couple of clean breaths. That's good. Okay. Back to you. There's all these noises. I don't know what it is. They say someone needs help.
Yeah, Mike! Mike! Mike, come over here! Yeah!
Anybody need a doctor?
Hello, Doc.
Hey, that guy needs some oxygen if someone can share it with him.
10-4.
Thanks.
Division 6 acting, K, urgent. Division 6 acting, go. All right, you're responding down to the World Trade Center. You're to maintain radio communication and advise Manhattan dispatch what exactly is going on, K. We are unable to make any kind of communication.
It collapsed. The top floors collapsed down.
As it was on 9/11.
September 11th, most New Yorkers tried to get as far away as possible from the World Trade Center.
An exit speed is critical.
Thousands of people are trying to get home.
And it's like it totally took away my little kid instinct of everything is perfect.
You were inside the World Trade Center?
Inside the building.
Doing what?
Getting ready to go upstairs to search, and the floor gave way. The whole building collapsed.
Its seismic shock waves are registered in geological stations as far away as Lisbon, New Hampshire.
Let's go! Let's go!
Air Force One was now flying virtually solo in the empty skies with no flight plan.
Air Force One, go. I just hear the Air Force aircraft are working right now in our area.
Tillman asked for a fighter escort.
At that point, we realized that we probably needed some kind of long-range capability, either AWACS or some kind of fighter support to protect us long-range, identify targets for us, and tell us whether they're friend or foe.
And my guess is that Air Force One is in the unusual situation of having a fighter plane escort on its way back from Florida today. That's where we stand.
In full, the World Trade Centers hold about 50,000 people. No telling how many people were at work before 9 o'clock this morning. It appears that terrorists have succeeded this time in doing what terrorists tried to do back in 1993.
This is war. This is a declaration and an execution of an attack on the United States.
Mr. Bush ordered Air Force One to land somewhere within 30 minutes so he could appear on TV.
It was just about 10 minutes ago that we described to you the possibility of that North Tower collapsing. About 5 minutes after we went off the air, it did collapse. Once again, we have no idea at this point the loss of life. I can only tell you there were hundreds of emergency workers down there, about 5 or 6 blocks.
From Pittsburgh, another large plane has crashed, a plane going down in western Pennsylvania.
That was NBC's Pat Dawson again. He's standing about 10 blocks from where the World Trade Center towers used to stand, looking at the collapse of one of those towers right now. We now have an AP News alert out of Pittsburgh. Officials at Somerset County Airport are confirming the crash of a large plane just north of the airport. That's about 80 miles southeast of Pittsburgh. Again, officials at Somerset County Airport confirm the crash of a large plane north of that airport, which is located about 80 miles to the southeast of the city of Pittsburgh. We do not know whether that crash of that plane is related to what has become an obvious terrorist attack both here in New York City and in Washington, D.C. at the Pentagon.
Matt, we just got a late word that State Department security officials are denying those reports of a car bomb at the State Department.
And Air Force One turned west along the Gulf Coast.
To have this kind of an attack, this sophisticated, this efficient, striking at the heart of the nation's capital, striking at the heart of New York City. Now, and if this is true that this plane went down as a result of this attack, we don't know whether it's the end of it. Right. This is a massively well-coordinated attack of some kind.
And intelligence experts are now saying that there are very few number of terrorist groups that are capable of this kind of planning, and a couple of names come to mind, and I'm not going to throw them out now because we certainly don't have any reports.
Well, obviously, that was...
And was the whole federal building evacuated, Mr. Levy?
Yeah, well, we started running out of the building as soon as we saw the second explosion. And then I work on the 22nd floor. As soon as we were down at the bottom, they sounded the alarm.
Air Force One
landed at Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana, where the plane refueled.
Air Force One brought the president to Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana.
At 11:45, Air Force One landed at Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana.
The commanding general's office, and the president continued to get information from there.
The Secret Service have essentially told me we have an emergency plan in place for exactly this sort of thing, and of course we're not going to tell you where we take our protectees, including the president.
National airspace is officially closed for the first time since the dawn of flight. In the face of such horrific attacks on 9/11, air traffic controllers and private company dispatchers across North America managed to ground nearly 5,000 commercial flights carrying close to 1 million people in less than 3 hours with no prep and no formal plan.
Where is the President of the United States? The President of the United States led, I know we don't know where he is, but pretty soon the country needs to know where he is. Here's a bulletin about the President's whereabouts. The President is about to make a statement at Barksdale Air Force Base shortly.
He addressed the nation for the second time that day.
The president vowed to retaliate.
Make no mistake, the United States will hunt down and punish those responsible for these cowardly acts. The resolve of our great nation is being tested. But make no mistake, we will show the world that we will pass this test. God bless.
The President and his response to this is also part of the psychological package, because the country looks to the President on occasions like this to be reassuring to the nation. Some presidents do it well, some presidents don't.
We landed here at Barksdale Air Force Base. This is near Shreveport, Louisiana, at about 11:45 Eastern Time.
The president has just made a statement, a very emotional one, saying that freedom has been attacked, but freedom will be defended. I thought the president not only looked grim, very solemn, but his eyes looked somewhat red. We may be scrambled out of here.
Okay.
Are we leaving? Okay, Peter, we are leaving. And
where are you going, Annie?
Peter, I have no idea.
The president headed back to Air Force One.
And as we drove on the tarmac to Air Force One, there are Air Force security police with their automatic weapons out, guard dogs all over the place, into the woods, looking at the fence line.
The president's staff believed the situation in Washington was still unsafe, so they decided to continue to Nebraska, to a central command center where Mr. Bush could be secure and have all the communications gear he needed to run the government.
Minutes later, Air Force One took off again, the destination again a secret.
Once aboard Air Force One, Mr. Bush had a job for Press Secretary Fleischer.
The president asked me to make sure that I took down everything that was said.
Fleischer's notes capture Mr. Bush's language plain and unguarded. To the vice president, he said, quote, "We're at war, Dick. We're going to find out who did this and kick their ass." Colonel Tillman set course for an underground command center in Nebraska. As morning turned to afternoon, the president began to create a new doctrine aboard the airborne White House. When he next touched down, he would lay out the path to war.
He's got at least one more stop. Another interesting point along those lines.
Hold on, one more stop?
One more stop between Shreveport and Washington. He's on his way now, we're told, to another undisclosed location.
Air Force One touched down at Offutt Air Force Base, Nebraska at 3 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern Time. President George W. Bush and his team were herded into a small brick hut.
But Ann Compton, who's been with the president all day, is on the phone from Nebraska. We don't want to lose her if we can have her. Annie, can you hear me?
Yes, Peter, I can.
What are you doing in Nebraska?
President Bush is here at the home of the Strategic Command.
Early afternoon, the plane landed in Nebraska at the U.S. Strategic Command Center near Omaha.
This is the base where those big doomsday aircraft are kept. And he has disappeared down the rabbit hole, Peter.
That gave no hint of what they would find below.
Down through a red brick, small building, he and what skeleton staff are with him, down into an underground bunker where our Fleischer tells me the president is going to chair a National Security Council meeting by teleconference.
An underground command center manned by a round-the-clock battle staff.
You feel like you're playing a part in a movie.
This is the U.S. Strategic Command Underground Command Center. It was built to transmit a president's order to go to nuclear war. After a short briefing, Mr. Bush and Chief of Staff Card were taken to a teleconference center for a meeting of his National Security Council back in Washington. Mr. Bush had a question for his CIA director, George Tenet.
George Tenet was asked, who do you think did this to us? Sir, I believe it's Al-Qaeda. We're doing the assessment, but it looks like, it feels like, it smells like Al-Qaeda.
The Secret Service insisted that Washington still wasn't safe, but by then, Mr. Bush had had enough.
He looks at us and says, "Let's go. We're going home."
He really said, "I don't want a 10-horn terrorist to keep me out of Washington."
That's verbatim.
I also wanted to get back to convene the national security team. We had convened them by video conference, and that's fine. But I wanted to see me and see my body language and feel what I felt, because I had something to tell them. And I wanted to make it absolutely clear that we're at war, that we were going to set new doctrine, and that we're going to win the war, and we were going to lead this country. They took their best shot, and now it's time to take our best shot.
We've been told that the president may be back as early as this evening. The AP was also reporting he's considering some sort of address to the nation this evening.
At 4:36 that afternoon, he finally headed home.
I had time to think.
You know, in 27 years of covering presidents and crises, we have never played the kind of hunted game that was played today.
The president's plane sped east. 2 fighter pilots had scrambled to their jets.
Air Force One got two F-16s at about your 10 o'clock position.
CBS News photographer George Christian grabbed his camera and captured the moment.
There was a fighter jet so close that it appeared to be within the wing space of Air Force One.
Brotherton and Roberts rode shotgun for the president.
Were you worried about the safety of the people on this aircraft in those moments?
No.
Your own safety?
No, I wasn't worried about it. I looked out the airplane and saw two F-16 on each wing. There's going to have to be a pretty good pilot to get us.
President Bush is in the air. He is having communication difficulties with the White House.
It has devices on board that are meant to help it in the case it is attacked, as any military airplane would be. This is the president's plane, but it is a military aircraft. This extraordinary. The president flying with a fighter escort just off the wing.
The president is on his way to Washington. I have to say I don't really know that to be a fact. That's been officially announced that he's on his way to Washington. The president will be addressing the nation tonight from Washington, we're told. Will he be speaking to the White House? We do not know that.
The firefighters told us that there was a good chance that building number 7 was going to collapse. The building was fully involved in flame. There were large panes of glass crashing down into the street. I don't know exactly how many stories the building is, Dan, but standing at the base of it, watching it burn about an hour ago, it looked to be something on the order of 50, 60 stories, and I don't know whether they were able to evacuate.
Gradually, many firefighters made their way back to their firehouses that evening and began to learn just how much they had lost at Ground Zero, a total of 343 men.
They gave us an example of very, very brave men and women in uniform who stand their ground to protect civilians. We got a story of heroism, and we got a story of pride, and we got a story of support that helped get us through.
Extraordinary individual acts of heroism saved countless lives.
Moments later, the two F-16 pilots dove away from the president's plane to clear the airspace around their chosen destination.
Coming into the South Lawn, it was kind of eerie because normally there's hundreds of public there on the side to receive him, and on that day there was nobody. And we landed. He still came up and thanked us for the safe flight in, and stepped off the steps and into history.
Is the president coming back from a trip that has taken him first to Florida today to talk about education? There's nothing that this president, this new and young president, could ever have imagined was going to occur on his watch, which would test his leadership qualities.
9 hours after the attacks, Mr. Bush arrived back at the White House. The president went to work inside the executive offices. Members of the House and Senate were gathering on the Capitol steps to address the nation.
We are here to declare that our resolve has not been weakened by these horrific and cowardly acts. Congress will convene tomorrow.
President Bush was working on his speech with Karen Hughes and her staff.
I wanted to comfort the country. And so the speech was an attempt to do that.
The president spoke to the nation. 80 million Americans were watching.
Good evening. Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
The Oval Office speech came at the end of the bloodiest day in American history since the Civil War. Mr. Bush walked to the residence for the night. At 11:30, a Secret Service agent rushed the president and the First Lady down to the White House bunker. They were tracking an unidentified plane. It turned out to be one of ours, now protecting Washington. In the early morning hours of September the 12th, the president finally slept.
Agents were seen moving swiftly, retracing the last steps of the suicide terrorists in locations all along the eastern coast.
Commander Frank Culbertson, an American astronaut, photographed Ground Zero from the International Space Station.
You could see New York City and the smoke from the fires our prayers and thoughts go out to all the people there and everywhere else. Here I'm looking up and down the East Coast to see if I can see anything else. I just wanted the folks in New York to know that their city still looks very beautiful from space. I know it's very difficult for everybody in America right now. I know folks are struggling very hard to deal with this and recover from it, but the country still looks good, and for New Yorkers, your city still looks great from up here.
And the smoke told the story.
Whoever did this is going to regret this dearly.
Terrorism experts say Osama bin Laden is the most likely suspect.
Your government failed you. Those entrusted with protecting you failed you. And I failed you. We tried hard, but that doesn't matter because we failed. And for that failure, I would ask, once all the facts are out, for your understanding and for your forgiveness.
We'll never forget.
It's not a matter of if, but rather when the terrorists will strike again.
A lot of cameras were rolling at that time.